My name's Don McCaffrey. I'm the president and CEO of Resverlogix. Resverlogix is a really unique company in drug development. It's about 20 years old now, and it's been working on a new type of medication that involves epigenetics. Now, your genetics, you know what that is. That's your DNA. Epi means above in Latin, so I like to refer to the original DNA as the hardware, the computer. Epigenetics is the software that's turning the genes on or off. Most drugs are based on following our system where your DNA turns into messenger RNA, that's a doubling of the DNA. And the messenger RNA, which we're more familiar with now because of Pfizer and Moderna operating in that with their vaccines, the messenger DNA then tells your body what proteins to make. Most drugs are made for a single protein and work very far down at the bottom of that chain in single protein drugs. However, diseases like COVID, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, chronic kidney, dementias, they involve hundreds of proteins. So this particular drug, what it's doing is it's taking the original DNA message, which in our patients has been corrupted. That can happen from disease or diet or environment, but the original DNA message is being changed during the transcriptional phase to messenger RNA. What we do is we simply turn it back to the body's original DNA message. Therefore, you're shutting off all of these now unwanted inflammatory markers and responses, and you can shut down the COVID cytokine storms in a very, very short period. And this is what we are now showing in real life patients with COVID here in Canada and soon to be in Brazil as well, and a few other countries on the way. As we've moved into the COVID-19 fight, we see ourselves in a very unique position to help combat devastating effects of COVID-19. We have a dual mechanism, which means it works in two ways against the COVID-19. One is an antiviral, which has been published by some of the top publications in the world as being even more effective than the drugs that are currently being used. And the other one is what I believe is the most important. It's an anti-inflammatory. Because COVID is a very sneaky disease, it's very stealthy. So most people have COVID for up to 8 days before they even know they have it. So they've got about a 2-day window before COVID has died out on its own for an antiviral to work. Now, we are an antiviral, and that is every bit's going to help. But at day 5 in this procedure of having COVID in some people triggers their autoimmune system, and it turns on a whole bunch of anti-inflammatory responses all at once, and they stay turned on. That's our strength, is turning those off. So our lead asset is a drug called apabetalone, and it's about 10 years ahead of the world in understanding of epigenetics and being able to treat medications in a new fashion. So what apabetalone does in the case of COVID-19, it has a dual impact. One, it is a very strong antiviral, and two, it's a very strong anti-inflammatory. Now for us, we have phenomenal publications, the top in the world as far as the potential for apabetalone. And however, we're a small company. We're a 40-something person biotech company. Very hard to commercialize at that level. So we have taken advantage already of a new business model that's out there. And it's a company called Eversana that specializes in commercializing phase 3 assets. They're a 3,000 person organization operating in 80 countries around the world. So they're all highly experienced individuals who have worked at major pharmas in this type of commercialization rollout. So moving forward into the COVID market has been a very busy experience. There's a lot of activity going on. Our drug was flagged as a potential by a group of 27 universities around the world that studied 20,000 drugs and mechanism of action for COVID itself. They published in Nature a short list of 63 that they thought would have huge potential in being repurposed for COVID. And we were number 2 on that list. So from that point forward, we were very excited and moved this through all kinds of academic studies in the Buffett Cancer Institute in Nebraska and in the Monash University in Australia. That's the one that got published in Cell. Both of them were published. So a lot of good stuff going on as far as the drug development, and the potential is actually enormous. Just the COVID opportunity alone will put our program to market about 2 years ahead of what was being planned. And so by mid-2022, we should have our emergency management use applications in various countries and moving forward. We're doing the same in the United States. They're a little further behind, but the opportunities here are enormous. And that excludes our major programs, which are ongoing. They include areas like pulmonary arterial hypertension and diabetes, cardiovascular, and chronic kidney disease. You may note that all 4 of those that I just mentioned are the key main concern factors for COVID-19 patients. It's no coincidence, because COVID-19's first touch point on a human cell is bromodomain 4, the exact target we have been working on for 20 years. So it's been a long haul. However, we are very near the end. So the upside commercially for this company and this drug and the follow-on drugs we're designing is huge. And we are really looking forward to the benefits that we're going to see during 2022.